This is the story of how the Battle of Crete, May 1941, in which many died, subsequently brought together New Zealanders and a family from Crete. It's the story of how Tony Madden from Waipukurau helped that family to relocate to New Zealand and to eventually resettle in Lower Hutt.
Tony hadn't really wanted to go away and kill people and thought he'd sign up for a job where that wouldn't be necessary. He enlisted as a driver. When the New Zealand General Bernard Freyberg's troops evacuated from Greece to Crete after encountering superior numbers and the German Air Force in full flight, Tony found himself literally shoved into the breach, handed a rifle and told to get ready to defend the island.
It was just at breakfast time. I'd taken my breakfast with a mate and it was my turn to be up on lookout up on the hill, toast and marmalade, cup of tea. Yeah. Took that up with us there, and I was sitting on the side of a slip trench, see all these blessed, you could hear the planes coming before you could see them, you know, like it was just a deep rumbling roar, you know, like in the air. And then you could see them. First of all, they came in with the Messerschmitts, and they softened us up pretty well for about half an hour or so, and then it quietened down, and then the troop carriers came in and they dropped them. There weren't too many around my area, actually. They were further away. You know, the parachutists were coming down there. They were a long way away, about the size of my thumb, I think, from memory. And I up with my rifle and took a shot at one of these fellas who was miles away, you know. God, I wouldn't. You know, and just as I did that, the sergeant ran in front of me just as I fired. God, did he tear a strip off me. They were lost from their unit, you know. There was just the three of them, and they were hiding in the olive groves. It wasn't olives, it was grapevines. And as we advanced, they took to their scrapers and ran. Somebody in the patrol opened up with a machine gun, you know, and that brought them down. I thought that would be it, you know, like we'd take them prisoners, but they didn't, you know, like these poor bastards were wounded lying on the ground there, and the officer said to bayonet them, you know.
The subject of who is responsible for the loss of Crete by the Allies, commanded by General Bernard Freyberg, a New Zealander, is the subject of many books and ongoing controversy. Norman Carter, a platoon commander from Lower Hutt at the time, is clear in his view.
My particular company was a sort of reserve company.
Yeah.
We were up on the hills, and we had to deal with any attack from the rear because parachutists were dropping all over the place. Nobody visualised that there was going to be a parachute invasion, and sure enough, to everybody's surprise, at 8 o'clock on the morning of the 20th of May, what happens? Parachutists started coming down, where my colonel realised that without a counterattack coming in from one of the adjoining battalions, Jerry was just about to take Malame aerodrome by sheer force of paratroops landing. See, he asked for the brigadier to order a battalion into a counterattack, but Hargest, I'm afraid, he's the one, in my opinion, who must take responsibility for the loss of Malame. He havered, and that's the thing, and the 23rd Battalion wasn't actually committed, and they were right on our right-hand flank. They could have come down and got amongst the paratroops, and it might have been a very different story. But that, in my opinion, is the key to the loss of Malame, the lack of that counterattack by the adjoining battalion, and for that, responsibility must be accepted by August.
Of the Allied forces who took on the Germans in May 1941, 3,500 were killed and 1,900 wounded. The German casualties were much higher. Despite these tragic figures, the soldiers involved managed to make light of some of it, particularly their lack of air cover. Tony's unit history includes the following poem.
"'Twas just a month ago, no more. We sailed to Greece to win the war. We marched about beneath a load while bombers chased us off the road. They bombed us here, they strafed us there, the bastards, they were everywhere. And as they dropped their loads of death, we cursed the absent RAF. One day we heard the radio news, and Winston Churchill gave his views. The RAF, he said, in Greece, are fighting hard to bring the peace. I scratched my head at that and said, that smells a lot like something dead. If in Greece the Air Force be, then where the flamin' hell are we? And then they landed us on Crete and marched us off our weary feet. The food was scarce, the water crook. I got fed up and slung my hook. Returned that night filled with wine. Next day copped a 10-bob fine. My pay book was behind to hell. When payday came I said, oh well, they'll not pay me, I'm sure of that. But when they did, I smelled a rat. But next day when the rations came, I woke up to their wily game. The sooner than lay down and die, I spent my pay on food supply. So now it looks like even betting. A man will soon become a cretin and spend his days in deepest gloom on Adolf Hitler's Isle of Doom. Yes.
There are 462 young New Zealanders buried at Suda Bay on Crete. We visited some of the graves about 10 years ago with the local mayor and the Archbishop, who wore a beard like a shovel and a black robe like a big tent. There were about 100 or so local people there, and they shed real tears as a local historian recited in perfect English the story of the battle and the losses sustained and the heroism displayed. He ended his oration by saying, "Tell their relatives and friends that these brave young New Zealanders are resting in peace among the Cretan people who will treasure their memory always."
Oh, actually, I had an easy bloody war compared with some people. I was lucky all the way through. Really lucky, you know. In the first place, I shouldn't be here.
Well, I mean, can you explain that set of circumstances?
Yeah, well, actually, after that first day there, we had a bit of a rest and went to sleep, and then in the morning when I woke up, I heard somebody call. They were calling for a volunteer. They wanted a volunteer to drive this truck. There were about 5 prisoners, I think. So we had these 5 prisoners, and they gave me a couple of guards to go with me, and we went down and dropped them off. And then on the way back, of all the silly things, we had been in Aegea Marina for quite a long time, and I'd left some of my personal gear there, and I thought, oh, I'll go and pick that up while I got it. So I went up to the tavern that was there then. Anyway, I was walking up this little bit of a cobbled street, and I could see this fella standing in the doorway, and all you could see was his trousers and boot and a rifle. He was just sort of standing there, you know. And the uniform was very much like the Greek police, you know, like they had the sort of much the same sort of grey and the boots and the Morser type rifle, you know. Anyway, I wasn't too sure. I wasn't going to go too close, so I called out to him. I said, "Greco," and came out, and he was a German. Well, I just stood there and gaped at him, you know. He looked at me. He was as surprised as I was. He was only a young bloke too. And Anyway, to give him his due, he came to his senses before I did. He came up with his rifle there, and as soon as he did that there, I put into practice the only bit of training that I remembered, and I threw my rifle forward and got into the prone position. By this time he'd got a shot away at me and missed. I went to have a shot at him, and my bloody rifle wouldn't fire. I pulled it, worked, but it wouldn't work. And I remembered I was carrying the damn thing with the safety catch on. So anyway, I released a safety catch, and there was one up the spout, and I had a shot at him, and I missed. And he had another shot at me, and that missed, and I thought, geez, you know. And I had another shot at him, and I missed again, for goodness sake. And this is all that wouldn't be any more than 25 yards distance between us, you know. And anyway, he got his third shot away at me, and that must have gone straight over the top of my head and into the back of my leg. And it travelled down my leg. I didn't know this at the time. I knew I'd been hit. I just threw caution to the wind, and I only had about far to go from here to that shed down there. I threw caution to the wind, and I got up and I ran. I went from life. I got to the RAP, and I was they fixed me up, and they gave me a smoke and a bit of dope or something there, put me down in a little bit of a hollow, and they said that there was a hospital ship coming that night there, and that I'd go on that, you know. Yep. They said you got one to get you home, you know. Anyway, I went to sleep, and in the morning I woke up and I was still there, and the hospital ship had gone. They'd missed me in the dark. Yeah. So.
After the Allied forces evacuated, Tony, with a large number of other wounded, was captured by the Germans and placed in a school, converted into a hospital in the village of Kalivas.
And I used to go and sit on the wall in front of the school, and the village girls would come along, you know, and they would talk to you.
How did you get on the language? Did you know?
No, I couldn't speak any Greek there.
Did they speak some English, or?
No, it was all
Sign language.
Sign language, miming, you know, that sort of thing. Anyway, Zaharula, she must have only been about, I suppose then she wouldn't have been any older than me, you know. And one day she came along there, and she had a billy with, looked like rice and raisins in it, you know. And probably done like a rice pudding, you know. That was good because we were pretty hungry. One day, when I wasn't on the street there, she came inside looking. She found me. I was in the lean-to, you know. And this day she'd bought a plate of chips with a couple of eggs on the top of these chips, you know. It was the most beautiful sight I think I'd seen in my life. God, it was lovely. Anyway, it was all covered up. She had a little tea towel over it, you know, like, and carried it there. She gave it to me, you know, and then there's all these other chaps around me, you know, like their eyes are standing out there. And so I ate a chip and I put a bit of yolk onto it, you know, though. And then I think I might have had two. And then I just passed the plate along to the chap next to me and told him to passed them around, you know. And God, she went butcher's hook at me. She gabbled away there in Greek.
She wasn't happy because she'd gone to all that trouble.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, she even managed to get a toothbrush for me too, you know, because we'd lost all our gear, you know. Yeah.
We helped them. My mother comes from a big family. She had 15 brothers and sisters, and she used to borrow the cigarettes from her brothers to take to Tony. That's what she told me, every now and again, and some food from home.
Then when she found out that they were going to send us through to Greece, the ship there, she came and she said, you come to my house, you know, like she wanted me to go to her house. Well, I didn't want to go because, you know, like it was too bloody dangerous, you know, like it was all right for me, like I'd have been all right, but, you know, like the Germans, if they'd caught anybody like that, you know, like the whole family would have been goners, you know.
The German occupying forces on Crete had a policy that anyone sheltering Allied soldiers would be shot, a policy they carried out with great rigour. So, for Tony, the willingness of Zakarula and her family to literally risk their lives for him was something that he did not forget.
He was reading the RSA paper back home in 1957 when a message from Crete caught his eye.
What actually caught my eye was the address was Agia Marina, the village that I'd been in, you see, and it was from a chap called Kondoyianakis, and he had helped New Zealand fellows, you know, like during the occupation, and he was wondering if any of them could be contacted, you know, or if they remembered him, you know, like to contact him, you know, because he could have done with a bit of assistance himself now, you know.
Someone from another village in Crete looking for someone. Somebody helped from Crete.
Yeah.
He was looking for someone.
Yeah.
And this bloke found him, but Mr. Madden saw the published paper. He remembered my mother, and she says to he written back to this bloke in Greece. He says, I don't know you, but I know somebody else in Crete, and I can't remember her name. It was in Kalivas. It was Zaharula Maropachi.
Yeah, that's right. Zaharula Maropachi. That was I could remember the name, but that was all I could remember, you know. And the interpreter knew her, or knew the family, and he wrote to me and said that Zaharula was now married and she had a family and that they were in poor circumstances, you know, and that if I really wanted to help, if I could take their son and give him a chance here in New Zealand, you know.
That was the maiden name of my mother then. And somebody he went to the place where the buses go from a village to Kanya there, and he asked somebody, do you know Zaharula Maropachi? And somebody, friend of his, says, yes, I know her. We're very good friends. And he says, this New Zealander here is asking her, he wants to help us because he helped him during the war. And do you know if it's what she wanted to help her for? And this bloke says maybe to take his son to New Zealand because I wasn't educated then and I was working labour at the moment. He said maybe he can take his son there to help her. In New Zealand, because here he's very poor and he won't have any very good life at all.
And I talked to my wife about that there, and she agreed that she would look after him. At the time I was in Rotary, and I was in business, but we weren't very financial, you know. And anyway, Rotary decided to take it up and make it one of their projects. If it hadn't been for them, I doubt if I could have financially done anything, because they were able to open doors, you know. We made a project of getting his fare, getting an entry permit and all that sort of thing. Because the poor kid, he didn't know a bloody word of English, and it must have been terrible, you know, like.
Yeah.
But my kids, they were good, you know, like Faith and Wayne. They were really.
Yep.
They took him in, and I think before he'd been here more than a couple of days, Faith had the Greek alphabet off by heart. Yeah.
Somebody else was on a Rotary Club and he had a carrying business. And he got me to help the mechanic looking after the trucks of the carrying business. And I was working there for start.
Yeah. So I think at that stage there was just you.
Just me, yeah.
And then after a period of time, the rest of the family came. Is that how?
No, Mr. Madden went back to Crete again.
Okay.
The Rotary sent him back to Crete, and he went there to my village.
Okay.
And he saw my mother and father there again.
Yeah.
And when he came back, he told me if we wanted to bring them back because he saw that we were quite poor. I said, yes, that's all right, we'll bring them back. So I paid for one fare for them because my father and two sisters and my mother, my father and two sisters of mine were in the family then.
Yeah.
And I paid for one fare, and my father paid for another fare from Chris. He sold something in Crete, and I think the Rotary Club paid again.
Yeah.
Oh no, we borrowed some money.
Yeah.
And I paid it back when I come here.
Yeah.
So there they were, Nick, his parents, two sisters, the only Greek family in Waipukurau, and their nearest compatriots an hour away in Hastings.
But then I think Zacharula wanted to go to Wellington because they had the Greek church down there,
yeah.
you know, and the community, and I suppose they were lonely here too, you know. Anyway, they decided to move to Wellington, and I think Manoli and Nick both worked in the Ford Motor Company assembly plant. And they were there for a long time. They were in Lower Hutt, I think, for a long time.
When Nick married, he and his wife bought a fish and chip shop in Everest Street, Nainai, and that shop was their life for 35 years. They raised 4 daughters and found the good life that they had come to New Zealand to find.
Oh no, the same year as I was married, we bought the fish and chip shop at 99 at Everest Avenue.
All right.
And I was working in the Everest Avenue up to when I retired by 2006.
Yeah.
After my wife got sick as well.
That was a good business?
Yeah, it was quite good, yeah. We were doing quite well there. But I was there for 35 years more or less in the same shop. We served people for the fathers, might be 3-4 generations from the same family. When we first would be there, we served the grandfathers, and then on the end, by the time we sold, we were serving the children then, and the grandchildren.
We have quite a bit in common with the people of Crete, with their citizen soldier tradition, their admiration for feats of arms. They, like us, understand the exigencies of farming in rough country, They love a guitar and a song. For the Allies, including the Cretans and the New Zealanders, that battle may have been a lost cause, but the people there have never forgotten the young men from a small island nation who came from the other side of the world to defend them from the invader.
When the lights go on again all over the world, and the boys are home again all over the world, and rain or snow is all that may fall from the skies above. A kiss won't mean goodbye.